yeah, I want to share this with you guys, and I'll share, tell you about my thoughts. Okay, so this has been going around and concerning me a lot. He's from Korea, and he's saying my country is choosing extinction. Korea has become quite a viral thing that's going around recently. Well, it's been going around for past few months and years. The population in Korea and the birth rate is decreasing dramatically. And from scientific and mathematical fact, in about like few centuries later, Korean people will be like literally extinct. The race of Korean is going to be extinct. It's going to be gone forever. And this guy has explained well detailedly and what's going on. I will going to say will show you what's currently happening to my country. So let's watch and I'll talk you through it.
My country, Korea, is collapsing. Many foreign experts says Korea will face demographic collapse within the next 50 years. But almost no one understands why Koreans stop having children. Now, as a Korean insider, I'm going to dig into the pants. No more sugarcoating, no more excuses.
Through these 3 questions, I'm going to expose the dark, twisted truth of Korea that everyone's too scared to talk about. First, how shitty is it to live as a working adult in Korea? Second, what does raising a child here actually require? And last, the children who are disappearing from this country. What kind of life are they growing up in?
그냥 뭐 딱히 큰 이유는 없는데 당장 나도 하고 싶은 거 다 못 하고 사는데.
So this guy, whoever said, he's 26 years old. He has no plan on raising children and doesn't have a particular plan in his life.
하고 싶은 걸 못 해. 퇴근하고 하고 싶은 거 다 하면 되지. 이거 만졌지? 일할 때 안 생각하고. 일할 때?
To answer this, I decided to live it. I visited the house of my friend who lives the core area of Seoul. He is a devout Christian and a huge fan of Harry Styles. Despite that, I like this friend very much.
여기가 월세 1,100만 원짜리 집을 한번.
So in Korea, there's a weird system in house and buying house. You can't really, you have to have immense amount of money in order to afford a house, especially in Seoul. But if it's outside of Seoul, you can get it in a kind of a decent price, but still it is very expensive. So instead of young adults who are 20s and 30s, unless they live in a rich families, people who can't afford their house, what they do is they deposit around that much amount of money, and they have to pay $750 a month rent, so they can rent a house in order to live.
이게 다야 그러면 공간이? 여긴 옷 넣어두는 데고 여기서 좀 밥 드시고.
And this is the only space. You walk inside the room, and this is your house. A bed, closet, everything is just cramped. And that's how much you have to pay. $750 each month just to live in this tiny room.
침대. 여기서 뭐 업무는 여기서 이게 냉장고야 그러면? 이게 밑에 냉동고. 250. 근데 100만 원 월세 이거 내고 그럼 사실상 돈 모으기는 좀 힘들겠네, 그지? 그럼 뭐 따로 결혼 자금이나 이런 거는.
Now, let's indirectly experience Korean office workers.
Is that real apartment? Yes. So there are few types of apartments. One's just an ordinary apartment, and there's actually another one that the government has made a system for young adults can afford. So this is run by the government. So the amount of money that the young adults have to pay, who are around 20s and 30s, are much lower. But in order to apply that, the competition, it has to compete with other young adults as well. So you can't just apply it and instantly go inside and live in that house and just buy and just pay cheap rents. And you have to be chosen to live in that place. If you're not chosen, then you'll have to wait for the next try or apply for a different kind of apartment that the government is running. How is law in Korea? It's It's a hit or miss. It can be good, and it can be bad, and I'll talk you through this in depth later on. So currently, I work at a company as well. So the time I wake up is around like 7 o'clock, and the time I have to arrive at my company is 8:30 a.m. So he's doing the like very similar thing what I'm doing right now. The time is very similar. Yeah, that is it really depends on what kind of job you have. If you're doing an ordinary office work, the office that starts working is around like 9. You have to sit down at your desk in the office around like 9 a.m. or 8:30 a.m. Do you start working when you're 8 years old? Okay. When you're 8 years old, there's there's a really messed up system. Okay, I'll talk you through this everything. All right, you'll be so surprised how messed up Korea is. It's just honestly, I have to say this. It's just diabolical.
Metaphor. It's just a normal Tuesday.
This may be very similar to Japan as well, but in Korea, this is the very usual thing that you'll see when you go inside a subway. Because, like, you know, everyone will take the train or subway or the bus, and this is how much people that you'll see. It's very cramped. And if you're unlucky and the train is full, you have to take the next train. So you have to leave the house quite early in order to not to miss the train, and in order to arrive on the office on time.
All of Korea's problems were created by urban overcrowding.
That is very true.
In my opinion, this country needs to collapse.
That's a very controversial state, but I will not reply if someone asks me that. Okay, so that's like very overly exaggerated. So you may think you'll have to go at a convenience store and just buy like a simple cup noodle and just have that as lunch. If you work at an ordinary company, they have their own card for you to spend and have lunch at any restaurant on a certain price. Okay, you can't exceed like around like how much it was, around like $10. You can't exceed that much. Below that, you can go to any restaurant if the price is okay.
I was working in a very good working environment for this shoot. I once jokingly reported my younger sister as a communist, so I know. Korean companies definitely use the same lighting as interrogation rooms. And some bosses treat their employees the way Hollywood treats Asians. They don't give a shit.
Yeah, that's true. In some statement, it's true.
By the end of the day, I had zero desire to go outside, no energy to date anyone.
Now, when you saw the public transportation, like in the subway, there's so many people, right? Then you may be thinking in your head, oh, why not just take a car then? So you just work and no social life. Oh, very close, Vex.
All the way to the office-packed district of Gangnam. Of course, if I had a BMW, I wouldn't be doing YouTube. I was with my friend on their way to work. 14 kilometers in 1 hour. The most useless thing in the world is a car in Seoul. Why not just not live in Seoul? Live somewhere else? But Korea's major companies are all concentrated in Gangnam or Jongro in Seoul. And housing prices in these areas are so ridiculous that New York looks reasonable. Unless Korean young people accept every job like Chinese TikTokers, it's not easy to get a job outside Seoul. Okay. Now, let's say we solve the money problem entirely. Hypothetically, economic anxiety, gone. What then?
횟수로는 10년 차고요. 한 8년 정도 됐어요.
친구분들이나 이런 분들께서 아이를 낳지 않으시는 분들도 많으실 거 아니에요. 그분들이 아이를 낳지 않는 가장 큰 이유가 혹시 어떤 거라고 생각하시나요?
기본적으로 약간 내 삶이 중요하니까.
본인의 삶을
그쵸,
더
그쵸.
중요시하는
네, 그러니까
그런
이제 다른 아이를 낳게 되면 어쨌든 아이들한테 들어가는 에너지나 시간이나 뭐 비용적으로도 그렇고
네.
그런 것들이 이제 많은데 그래서 이제 그거에 대한 어떤 희생을 해야 된다는 그런 부담감 그런 게 이제 제일
가장
크지 않을까. 네.
혼자서 그냥 내가 즐기면서 살겠다 이런 사람들이 조금 더
Then, what would
So what he said is, if you work for like 9 to 8, so like 11 hours or 12 hours, your energy would be all flushed out, right? You'll be drained. So you'll have no energy to have a social life. And that's the main key reason why people don't want to marry or have children. Because, you know, you don't have energy to look after your kids and you don't have energy to raise a proper family. So they have this pressure and fear that if they do get to marry, they don't think they'll have the responsibility to do this, to be in charge of being a proper family or to raise a proper family.
the older generations in Korea like back then, before the birth rate started to drop? In 50 years, Korea went from one of the poorest countries on the planet to one of the richest. GDP per capita increased 350 times. The military regime's policies at the time certainly played a role. The state pushed the narrative that national wealth was the only path to strength, and the older generation grew up with the belief that their personal sacrifice was the foundation of the country's progress. It fostered a spirit of working for family, neighbors, and the nation, even at the cost of one's own self.
아이를 키울 때 가장 힘들었던 점이 어떤 거에 있으셨어요?
없었어.
없으셨어요?
난 해방둥이야.
네네.
지금 80 하나야.
네네.
그러면 그 당시는
네.
자네들은 모르지만은 얼마나 어려웠어. 우리 6.25 때 끝나서 꿀꿀이죽 알죠?
네네.
그거 한 그릇 먹는 게 소원이야.
네.
그래 요즘에 건방지게 정치고 뭐고 나발이고
네.
짬밥도 끓여가지고 안 처먹으면 그냥 대화
오케이.
하고 싶은
네.
편하게 일을 해야 할 거 아니야. 근데 그거를 도와줘야 할 놈들은 위에 놈들인데 그걸 다 가로막아가지고 돼 있어. 안 돼.
Yeah, politicians are causing massive trouble in our Korea. They're not trying to improve our country to be a better place for citizens to live. All they do is they are wasting our taxes.
그 환경이
네.
지금같이 복잡 다양하지 않고
네.
단순한 환경이었어요. 그래서
Business? Well, business. Like, what do you mean? Like opening up your business or any assets? We are currently it's in a truce state, right? So we're not having war with North Korea. So all the taxes that goes in, it doesn't get used to improve the quality of people's life. It uses mainly on military assets and also just to, you know, it's not really improving, honestly. The taxes what we have to pay, it's not making a huge improvement in our country.
애들을 건강하게 건강하게 키운 것이 제일 목적이었고
Okay, so back then, around like 30 years or even older, back then, life was simple. There were no, you know, technology wasn't so well developed in Korea. So the parents' goal at that time was just to let their children to grow as a, you know, healthy life. Nothing was like complex up until now.
The fuel was a specific combination: Confucian collectivism mixed with raw capitalist hunger. But somewhere in that transformation, something broke. The sacrifice mentality didn't disappear when the poverty did. The competition didn't stop when everyone had enough to eat.
애를 안 낳는 게 아니라 너는 왜 결혼하기 싫은데? 결혼하기 싫다며.
뭐 똑같은 돈을 번다 해도 애를 낳으면 거기 사실 내 지출의 70%가 다 들어갈 텐데
그렇지.
그 돈이면 사실 나 혼자 살면 내 하고 싶은
Now, this is very important what he said. He said that I don't want to raise children because all my money that I earn will go to my children and I won't be able to spend any. And this is very true, and I'll tell you why.
거 나오 살 수 있는 솔직하게 말해서 희생을 하기 싫은 것이 혹시 한국 남자는 어쩔 수 없이 희생해야 되는 게 맞잖아.
그냥 경력 단절이나 그리고 여자들은 대기업이면 모를까 경력 단절 자체가 크게 느껴지거든요. 회사가 작을수록.
So it's not just money. Even people who have enough still say no. And honestly, it's hard to argue with them. Because the life they'd be giving up is the first generation of Korean life that actually has some breathing room in it. But let's put all other issues aside for a second. Let's just forget about everything else and imagine they have a child. What is life really like for parents and children when it comes to raising kids in Korea? In Seoul, the cost of raising a child is heavily influenced by school districts. Better neighborhoods demand higher tuition for elite education and much higher rent. Naturally, parents want to provide the best possible environment for their children's education. This is Daechi-dong, the epicenter of Korea's academic fever. Every season, parents line up since dawn just to secure a seat in a star teacher's class. For context, this guy's annual salary is even higher than Travis Kelce's. The city built these booths for student health, but all I saw inside were students studying.
학교가 한 몇 시에 끝나요? 4시쯤에 끝나요. 4시에서 4시 반. 네. 독서실에 잠깐 들려가지고 밥 먹은 다음에 이제 학원 가가지고.
그러면 몇 시까지 어디서 보통 공부를 하세요?
한 5시에서 6시까지 그냥 그 독서실 같은 데 가가지고.
5시에서 6시까지?
네.
그러면 6시 끝나고 이제 집에 가는 거예요?
아니요, 그럼 이제 학원 가죠.
6시 끝나고 학원을 가서 학원에 가서는 몇 시까지?
보통 10시 끝나.
10시에 끝나고?
네.
그럼 지금 두 분이 혹시 이제 행복하신지 마지막으로 여쭤보고 끝내겠습니다. 행복하십니까?
그렇게 행복하진 않죠.
그렇게 행복하지는 않죠 아무래도.
Shut up.
How miserable and boring life is that? So after when you finish school, you'll have to go to countless amount of academy on weekday, and you get home at 10 o'clock in the evening. And when you get home at 10 o'clock in the evening, you'll have to do homework that was given from the academy and the school. And the time that you'll be able to sleep is around like 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. And that's what the current students' life is like in Korea.
It's not that Asian students are uniformly unhappy. The idea that all Asian kids are either anxious and suppressed or naturally gifted geniuses is nothing more than a lazy Western stereotype. I once lost my
Ooh,
entire fortune in a poker
I
game to a
would not
3-year-old
say
Chinese
that.
kid, but that boy was special.
And especially in Korea, most competitive education districts. Do you know how much parents are paying every month?
I said just fucking say it!
At least $900.
Okay, so every parents they spend around approximately average $900 on each children, and this is true. The company that I work in, my supervisor, or I could call it my boss, he has identical twins, daughters, and I asked him, so do you send any academies to your daughters? And he said yes, and he sends 6 academies on each daughter. So there'll be 12 academy for 2 people. And I asked, how much does that cost monthly? And he told me around $2,100 just for the academy tuition. And I asked, what kind of academy do they go? And he said, oh, they go to like all sorts of academies, like violin, instrument academy, to learn violin, or go to swimming, or go to math tuition, math academy, and taekwondo, and like all sorts of other like education academy. And I was so shocked. You know why? There are only grade 3 elementary students. And I asked them, what time do they get home? They said, he said around like 8 or 9. Then I asked again, are they enjoying this? And he said, yeah, they're pretty much enjoying this. But honestly, in my mind, I totally disagree with that.
그러면 보통 학교는 언제 정도 끝나시는 편이에요?
저희 한 3시 정도에 끝나는 것 같아요.
3시. 그러면 학원은 몇 시에 가세요?
5-6시 정도.
5시. 그럼 5시에 가서 몇 시에 학원이 끝나나요?
10시 정도
10시에.
끝나요.
그러면 그거를 주 5일 하시는 거예요?
네.
As you can see,
Like the student said, she gets home at 10 o'clock in the evening after all the academy. And I said earlier, you can't go to sleep up until like 1 or 2 a.m. Because you know why? Because you got homework from academy and school.
Korean children's daily routines were more grotesque than the Tiger music videos.
저출산 문제가 해결이 될까요?
남녀 평등?
남녀 평등? 그럼 결혼의 생각이 왜 없을까요?
그냥 혼자 사는 게 되게 좋은 거라고 느끼는 것 같아요.
But they were very bright and smart kids. Okay then, why are Koreans so obsessed with education to this extent? In Korea, the university you attend determines which community you belong to.
So, like he mentioned earlier, the company determines on which university you graduated. So there are top 3 universities in Korea, and we call it SKY. So SKY. S would be Seoul University, K would be Koryo University, and YUB Yonsei University. Those are the top 3 universities that every student, or more likely every parent, wants their children to go, because like all the major companies in Korea, like Samsung, LG, they look for like new employees who graduated from that university. If you did not graduate from like Sky University, they won't even look at your resume. They will not. So that means that the next step you'll have to take to get employed in a company, you'll have to look for like a mid-sized company. And if a mid-sized company demands more from your resume, then you'll have to look for a small-sized company, which the salary difference is massive. It could go up to like 5 times higher. It makes like a 5 times difference if you work in a small-sized company or like a big company like Samsung or LG.
비교하는 문화도 저는 한몫하는 것 같은 게, 사실 아이를 키우려면 이 정도 재산이 있어야 해, 뭐 결혼하려면 이 정도는 있어야 한다, 이런 기준이 점점 높아지고 있다고 생각하거든요. 땅은 좁은데 서로가 서로를 너무 잘 알기도 하고.
Then why?
What she pointed out is very important as well. The reason why people do not want to marry, especially for guys, is that when they meet a girl, she expects this guy that she is meeting to at least have a car, have around like 20K save up monies, and a house. And these just doesn't come from women. The reason why this kind of idea comes from girls is that their parents ask who they're meeting, who their daughters are meeting, and they will stuck up their daughter's nose and keep asking, does he have a car, or what kind of company does he work in, or what kind of job does he have? Does he have a house? Did he save enough money to get married? And marrying in Korea, I'm sure this applies in every country, but generally marrying will have you so much debts if you haven't saved enough money.
Not just love each other and live together. Get married, but no kids.
Would you marry someone like you? What's your job? You got a car?
Get out.
That a fucking bike or what?
Yeah, some people would straight up and ask you, if you're interested in this girl, or if you're a girl, you're interested in this guy, then someone would straight up and ask, well, so what job do you have? And if they think the job does not meet their standard, they'll completely lose the interest on the other person.
We end up with people who are masters of competition, but strangers to unconditional love. Competition leads to comparison, and comparison makes our choices purely rational and calculating. But love is not a performance metric. Marriage is not a result that can be optimized. Having children is of course the same. It is a choice made by emotion, not reason. These generations inherited the prosperity, and apparently also the bill.
지금 뭐 우리 주변에 아버지들만 봐도 가족들 얼굴 잘 못 보고 일만 해서 이제 경제적 지원만 해주는 그런 삶이 사실 우리 눈에 보이잖아.
그치.
그러니까 뭐 사실 우리라고 해서야 뭐별 다를 바 있냐는 것입니다.
But what you must understand is that whenever Korea is in crisis, Korean citizens miraculously band together and face the situation with razor-sharp focus, and blame each other until suicide.
I became totally speechless when I saw this. The S rate around the globe, I never expected Korean to be first. But looking at how the Korean society runs, I'm not even surprised anymore.
아이를 낳으실 생각이 있으실까요? 저는 있어요. 결혼을 하고 싶은 생각이 있어요? 네. 애도 낳고 싶고.
지금은 있는데 나중에는 뭔가 해소가 될 것 같다고 생각.
시대가 지나면서 해소가 될 것 같다.
뭔가 인식의 변화 그런 것들. 그러니까 저도 이제 어쨌든 아이를 가지게 되고 낳고 보니까 너무 행복하고 되게 많은 기쁨을 주는데 그거를 사실 경험해보지 못하면은 모르는
알지
일이니까
못하니까, 네.
예, 그런 거에 대해서 조금 인식이 바뀌면 충분히 뭐
I don't think the real story is that Koreans just don't want kids. I think a lot of people do, but somewhere along the way, those things stopped feeling like a dream and started feeling like a burden. I genuinely hope my country becomes a better place, a place where people can give love to one another without holding back. I pose a question to the world.
I really hope so, because like currently the state of Korea is now we are all competing each other. Children's, they're competing each other on educations, who goes to the better school, and if they're university students, and competing who goes to better university, and when they apply for jobs, who gets the better job, and next it will be who gets the most salary. It's an endless loop of cycle, and this system needs to be changed. I really hope at some point this whole system just breaks and like some new fresh system happens and this kind of crisis stops. That's really what I'm hoping for the future of my country. And one thing I didn't point out is that in order to go in order to get applied or employed or hired in a like big massive company, a popular company in Korea, the amount of people that you have to compete is like thousands and thousands of people. And in mid-sized company, it will still go up to like around 1,000 people. And the amount of people employee they will hire is around 2. So you'll have to compete like hundreds and hundreds of people, and you have to have the perfect resume to catch an eye on them, like give them the attention that you're special, you're eligible, you're qualified to work in that company. And even that applies to a small size company as well. The company that I work in, I was so shocked because it had like 159 people applied, and the amount of employed they were hiring was 1. And I was the only one that got employed. So 158 people could not get in the company that I work in because I got hired. And that's how hard it is to get employed at a proper company in Korea. And that's what the current situation is. And this is the reality on what's going on in our country. And the thing I would like to point out is that whenever I see like foreign people in Korea, I used to work at a convenience store when I was like early 20s as a part-time job. And normally, sometimes I would see like foreign people, and I would like to talk to them because I'm more comfortable speaking in English. So I asked them like, "Oh, where are you from? What do you do?" So normally people are here to live. They work as an academy teacher, like an English teacher or private tutor. And they said, I asked them, "Do you enjoy living in Korea?" They said yes. And I asked this question: what is the advantage on living in Korea? They said, if you're rich, it is an absolute perfect country to live in. The reason why they said that is there's no guns in Korea. So the crime rate in Korea is very low. It's very safe. And also, everything is extremely fast. It's just ridiculously fast. So if you order anything, so for example, there's a Amazon version in Korea called Coupang. So if you order any kind of product, it will almost certainly that it will get delivered on the same day, or the latest will be the next day early in the morning. So the delivery system is extremely fast. The public transportation is very convenient. The foods are just generally delicious. The Korean cultures are like very fascinating to learn and see. So lots of foreign people have like this amazing interest in Korea. And that's why nowadays, more and more foreign people who have enough money to live in, they come here and actually live here. Even in my neighborhood, whenever I walk down the street, I see like 50% they're like non-native Koreans and 50% are native Koreans. That's how much the like foreign people are currently living in Korea. And what that means is that less Korean native people are actually living in Korea. They're like rather than just living in Korea, they prefer to go out. And yeah, that's so messed up, isn't it? And even right now, currently, if you go to a convenience store that I faced, yeah. So even right now, when I go to a convenience store to buy some snacks or any drinks, you'll see like 70 or 80% of the time there'll be like foreign people working at a convenience store or even at a restaurant. One of a restaurant that I went with my mom like months ago, it was a meat restaurant. You can have like infinite amount of meat then until you're like full. You pay like certain amount of money and then you can enjoy like a meat buffet. The employee they worked there I saw was like 8 people and 7 people were foreigners. And only one person there was a Korean person. And guess why? Because he was the manager. I was so shocked. What? What is going on with our country? What? Why do I see so many foreigners? I'm not saying having foreigners is bad, but what are these young men are doing right now? Why are they not working? Where are these young men? It's such a bizarre thing to see. It's and time flows. Korea is definitely gradually going into a state of a crisis. I'm hoping for the future that this whole system gets refurbished and get renewed into a better place for native Koreans to live and have a better life, get married, raise children, and stop this decrease of birth rate and all this stress with children as well. Like one thing I would like to talk about is that when I was like young, really young, around like first grade of elementary students, I lived abroad when I was 8 and for 10 years and then I came back to Korea. So before that, my mom would only send me like 1 or 2 academies like piano academy or swimming academy, anything that would be kind of like be interesting or maybe like good skills to learn throughout your life. Like I thank my parents for allowing me to have that and not just like putting me in an academy for until like 10 o'clock in the evening and then come back completely with I had my energy completely drained. So back in like way ages, like parents on their children, they did not have like very high expectations on educations. But now even kindergarten kids, children's, they get like tuition, like math tuition. Math tutor comes into their house and teach, or even like math or other kinds of English as well. Like they learn English at such a young age. And this is the one really weird fact that I will tell you. Korean people learn English not because they want to use practically. They learn English just to get good grade in English exam. That's all. And also, getting a high score in English test, like TOEIC, TOEFL, or IELTS, etc. Because you know why? Those will be the specs that you build up in order for the students or for young adults to get hired in a high company, in a like very big major companies. And that's what's happening. The educational demand on children is just so diabolical. I cannot allow this. It's just unacceptable. I don't like it. I would like to hear you guys on what you think about the current situation in Korea. And also, I'd like to hear like what other things that's happening to your country. Is it strict? Is the educational demand as high as as South Korea, or how does the education system works, or like what's it like to live in there? I'd like to hear your thoughts, guys.